Okay, it's 10:10. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the UW System Board of Regents. Megan, could you please call the roll?
Regent President Walsh.
Here.
Regent Vice President Bogus.
Here.
Regent Adams.
Present.
Regent Atwell.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Brankus.
Here.
Regent Cologne.
Here.
Regent Jones.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Regent Cruiser.
Present.
Regent Manydeeds.
Here.
Regent Miller. Regent Miller.
Oh,
Regent Peterson.
Here.
Regent Prince.
Present.
Regent Rye.
Here.
Regent Staton.
Here.
Regent Tyler.
Here.
Regent Underley. Regent Fox.
Here.
Regent Weatherly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
thank you. Are there any board members who wish to declare any conflicts of interest regarding today's open session agenda? Seeing and hearing none, we will proceed. I will now call on President Rothman to present the single item on our agenda today.
Great. Thank you, Regent President Walsh, and good morning, everyone. Obviously, reaching this agreement that is before the board today was a challenging and arduous process, I think, as you know. I appreciate that compromises needed to be made for us to reach an agreement, but in my experience, that is what is necessary and what it takes to reach a deal. I wanted to thank the Regents for their input and feedback and guidance as we have worked through this process during multiple sessions and numerous other conversations that I have had with a number of you. I am grateful that you committed the time and the effort to understand both deeply and thoroughly the various issues presented by the agreement before you today. Considering all that is at stake, and given the current circumstances in which we find ourselves, on balance, I believe the agreement is in the best interest of the universities of Wisconsin, and I recommend the resolution before you today for approval by this board.
Thank you. Before we
Madam
begin I'm sorry, before we begin the discussion, may I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
Madam President, may
Yes.
I? Second.
I'm sorry, there's a request on the table for a motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Regent
Regent Rye.
Rye, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Cologne. Now Regent Wax, I'll call on you.
Yeah, Madam President, I was, and with the connectivity issues here, I'm trying to make a motion to lay the present motion on the table in the interest of getting more detail on the impacts of this, as well as more input in the interest of shared governance. And so I was asking if the body would entertain a motion to lay the present motion on the table.
I will second that motion.
There's already a motion on the table, General Counsel.
So it requires a second. The motion is not open to discussion or debate. It's not amended, so there should be a vote on the motion.
On the original motion.
I'm sorry, you said this is a motion to lay the original motion on the table, correct?
Yes.
So
And there is a
that
second.
requires a second. It's not open to discussion or debate. It's not amendable, so there would be a vote at this point as to whether or not to lay the motion on the table.
Lay it on the table, meaning we discuss it and can vote.
Lay it on the table as it would be postponed until it could be taken up at a later time.
President Rothman?
It's not a debatable motion.
Okay, sorry.
And the second was Regent Manydeeds, for the record.
There's a
Yeah.
motion to table the original motion. My understanding is we have no discussion and we need to vote on it. I'd like a roll call vote, please, Megan.
Regent President
Excuse me,
Walsh.
can I interrupt? Excuse me.
No,
Excuse me.
no, we're
This
voting.
is Regent
We're
Miller.
voting now.
I think that's just John
Aye.
Miller noting that he can unmute.
Yes, I just wanted to mark that I'm present for the original because I was having trouble. So please proceed.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that the record reflects that I am present.
Thank you, Regent Miller. Okay, proceed with the roll call vote, please.
The vote on the motion to table, Regent President Walsh,
No.
Regent Vice President Bogus,
No.
Regent Adams,
Yes.
Regent Atwell,
Yes.
Regent Brankus,
Yes.
Regent Cologne,
No.
Regent Jones,
No.
Regent Cruiser,
No.
Regent Manydeeds,
Yes.
Regent Miller,
Yes.
Regent Peterson,
No.
Regent Prince,
Yes.
Regent Rye,
No.
Regent Staton,
Yes.
Regent Tyler,
No.
Regent Underly, Regent Walks,
Yes.
Regent Weatherly,
Regent Weatherly, can you hear us?
Excuse me, no.
and then Regent Atwell, can I just confirm that you abstained?
I think I voted yes.
Yes, thank you. I thought I heard pass. All right. 8 in favor. 9 against. The motion fails.
Okay, thank you. We'll move then to discussion of the resolution, and I'll now open it to questions and comments from Regent Cologne. I see you've had your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, President Regent Walsh, for the opportunity to share a few words. I'd like to start off by asking us to reflect on some of our current equity, diversity, inclusion practices and ask ourselves, are these things moving the needle? Titles, affinity groups, flags, and terms like Latinx, some would say tokenism. These approaches we know from the data we have seen have not moved the needle in our UW system. I would argue that this proposal is an opportunity for us to do things differently. My concern is, are we going to do things differently? How are we going to do things differently? If we lived out equity, diversity, and inclusion through our UW system values, our actions, our culture, it becomes who we are and how we behave. If we approach it this way, it's not something that you can get rid of. Can we do versus say? Can we act versus sharing a statement? We have an incredible opportunity in front of us, a hard opportunity, but also a great responsibility to act on our equity, diversity, inclusion values and impact our culture through our decision with this proposal. But we can make a real difference. Right now, pay is being held at UW, affecting the livelihood of employees, their families, including those for underrepresented groups. We need individuals from diverse backgrounds in healthcare, engineering, and technology. The 32 million will help make this happen. I can imagine a future student, let's say his name is Roberto Hernandez, who has hopes of going to the engineering school in Madison, and how this experience could transform his life and create wealth not only for him, but for future generations of his family. I want to make it very clear. My personal faith guides me to believe in equity, diversity, and inclusion because it's the moral thing to do, the right thing to do, and also the smart thing to do. My remarks today are rooted in the greatest of God's 10 commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself, a principle that transcends faith traditions and bridges across differences. I don't think our equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts have inspired us to do this. Is there a better way? I think our decision today may be divided, which would be uncharacteristic of this board. But I hope my remarks and others today will unite us even more than we've ever been in the past. I am supportive of moving this proposal forward, but I have some questions for Jade. 2 questions. First, how will you ensure that through these changes, we still live out the values, beliefs, and actions relating to equity, diversity, and inclusion? And are there specific measures we can put in place to ensure we will be living out the values, beliefs, and actions relating to equity, diversity, and inclusion? That concludes my remarks. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Regent Cologne. President Rothman, would you like to address the question?
Yes, Regent Cologne, thank you for the questions. A couple of responses. One is the core values of the universities of Wisconsin around diversity and inclusion are not changing as a result of this action. The proposed agreement neither eliminates diversity, equity, inclusion, nor does it continue business as usual in its entirety. That we have to evolve to continue to move forward. But I think it is absolutely essential that the principles of diversity and inclusion are imbued throughout our universities. It is absolutely critical for our long-term future. It is critical to, I think, the success of our universities and the success of our students and the success of the state of Wisconsin. I would also note that we have set forth in the strategic plan that this board approved specific measures to close gaps relative to underrepresented students as it relates to retention rates and as it relates to graduation rates. Those are not changing. We have to recommit ourselves to continue to close those gaps. At the same time, we have to look at diversity as a broader concept, and we have to be inclusive and belonging to all students. Certainly underrepresented students from underrepresented groups, but also students of different ideological and religious faiths, veterans, disabled students, first-generation students, and the like. That is all part and parcel of who we are at the universities of Wisconsin as we live our core values of diversity and inclusion.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate the response.
Thank you, Regent Cologne. Regent Adams.
Thank you, President Regent Walsh. I can appreciate that the universities of Wisconsin is in a difficult financial situation. The legislature has made decisions over the years that have proved to have a negative lingering effect on our public universities. But to finally and begrudgingly propose to start funding the universities in exchange for insulting people historically excluded and underrepresented in higher education is a non-starter for me. It's divisive, it's polarizing, and will ultimately lead to even more negative effects on the university system for decades to come. Let's go back to the table at the request of the students, faculty, and staff, shared governance, alumni, and the general public. Let's do so by including the need for more conservative thought leadership on our campuses as a part of our core values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's change Wisconsin from being ranked number 42 of 50 states in terms of public funding our public universities. After all, where is our Wisconsin pride? Our brand reputation also has value. And so I've reached the conclusion that it is short-sighted to accept such an indecent proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Adams. Regent Brenkus.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I do have a few remarks. I would like to say that this, from my perspective, this compromise is as old as time. People of privilege eroding the incremental gains of the institutionally underdeserved. It is telling in the year 2023 that we convene groups for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And like the compromises before, we dismantled the systems intended to help people up. You can attempt to justify it that these roles are reallocated or we're going to improve the system in the future. But the truth is this: you are selling our minorities out for millions of dollars. There is no number that makes that right. As a student regent from a Native American family majoring in Indigenous studies, I will be voting no, because I believe the time has passed for minorities to be deprioritized. The universities of Wisconsin should stand for the highest of values, the value of equity. And any vote otherwise is succumbing to the racist agenda unwillingly being thrust upon this governing body under the veil of a compromise. I will not compromise, and I ask each of you to consider standing on the right side of this issue and on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Brenkus. Regent Many-Deeds.
Thank you, Regent President Walsh. This is a tough position that we've been placed in through no fault of our own. We have an individual that has an agenda and has placed us in a position where we have to choose between people and their success and buildings and money for our employees. Certainly, we have argued for and put forth the engineering building at the Madison campus for enumeration multiple times over the years. Certainly, we have begged for and asked for and pleaded for pay raises for our employees. We would like to see that. In fact, we would like to see them make more money. We've always said that, and we will continue to say that. Wouldn't we like to have the reciprocity agreement in place so that our campuses on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota could get more of the money that they're entitled to because of the enrollment from Minnesota? We would like that. We think it's right. These are all things that I can't argue against. These are things that I support. However, I'm on the side of people. And let me tell you something about this. You know, we have BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, marginalized and underrepresented groups, our military veterans, first-generation students, disabled students who fought their way into school by way of lawsuits so that they could even be able to get into the buildings. These are the people that are benefiting from EDI programs. And of course, they're not perfect. Of course, they need to be improved. Of course, all of those things should be happening and worked on by us. It shouldn't take this sort of situation for us to finally promise that we're going to make it better. We have to make it better, regardless of what happens in this vote. Now, there are shining examples of success. There are people that graduate from our campuses that we run into all the time at our meetings that have come and told us their story. We heard some of them yesterday. We heard some of them at the last meeting when the military representative came and told us about veterans and their needs and how the campuses were meeting them. I was very moved by that. Every time we hear a success story is one more person who is an example to 100 other people who may not have hope. And let me tell you this, I'm going to give you information about myself that I really don't want to give. I know we all have a story. I know we all have reasons why we do things. But when I was 5 years old, I went to a school where there were kids taken from their families and placed in a government school, not allowed to practice their faith, not allowed to speak their language, not allowed to dress their dress, not allowed to have long hair, not allowed to be who they were. I was there. And you know what? They were sad. They were fighting. There were discipline problems. We didn't learn anything for years. I went there for 4 years. I didn't know how to spell. I didn't know how to read. I was really bad at my schooling. And I hated school. I freaking hated it. I had no hope, and I can't imagine what those children had. They had no hope. I am not going to take hope away from anybody. Doing this is going to take hope away from somebody. Do you know what losing hope looks like? There were no smiles in that school. There was no laughter. There was just sad eyes. And that haunts me to this day. To this day. I wonder, why did I get out? Why did I get a chance? Why was it me? If I could do it, certainly all of them could have done it. They should have had that chance. But what happened to them? Did they grow up in poverty? Probably. Did they grow up alcoholics? Possibly. Did they have no hope such that they took their own lives? Yes, probably, because that happens on those reservations. They lost hope. You know what hope is? Hope needs a symbol. Hope needs a symbol so that you can keep going. The Red Cross is a symbol that hope is coming. Our flag is a symbol of our country. When someone says to you, I love you, that's a hope that you're going to have a relationship. And when someone takes those signs and symbols and statements of hope away from you, and you lose hope, then you don't want to continue. And I think if we take the EDI symbol away, some of these students are going to lose hope. Some of the ones that are thinking about possibly trying to go to college are going to hear about this. And whether or not they're educated on the nuances of what we're doing in this policy or this agreement that was made, doesn't matter, because they're going to lose hope, because they're going to lose that symbol. A symbol that maybe someone in their family or someone that they know has told them is available, and that there is hope. There will be people there to help you. You can go, you can fit in, you can learn, you can be a success. I am passionate about this. This is not a business decision. This is not a building. We're going to get that engineering building. And Hector, that person you gave the example of, will go to the engineering building. It will be built because people in this state, employers, want that building, and it's going to get done. And our people are going to get paid. We're in a lawsuit about that, and they're going to get paid, and we're going to work on that. But do not let someone take the first swing of the axe at EDI. Don't let the axe blade go into the bark of the tree. Don't let the axe blade go into the inner bark of the tree. Don't let it go into the part that feeds the tree. And certainly don't let it go into the heartwood of the tree. Because if it does, the next time we're here next year, when La Crosse wants its science building, or Superior wants its facility to make that community better and stronger, or Madison needs something else for it because it's a big and growing enterprise and campus, we're going to hear this. Okay, you want those things? Here's what we need. Here's what I need. I need you to cut more people from the EDI positions, or the student success, that's going to be called, I guess, down there. We need those cut because guess what? There's hardly anybody using it. So you can cut that. You can cut that. And then let's call it something else, just for the heck of it, okay? Just for the heck of it, let's do that. And that's going to happen. We're going to have to vote on that because we want the science building. We want the stuff at Superior that's going to make that community grow and thrive and be better. We want Madison to get more things. So we're going to have to do another compromise, another agreement that's going to be worked on and worked on and worked on. And I'm not critical of Chancellor Mnuchin and President Rothman for doing what they did. I am not critical of them. They're stuck in a bad spot, and we're going to lose no matter what happens in this situation, no matter what our vote is. I'm just saying to you, please do not take hope away from the people that need hope, hope that they can live and succeed. Every day I sit and look in the mirror and I say, why the hell am I here? Why do I get to practice law? Why do I live in a house when some people that I knew back in South Dakota lived in a car? In a car. I can't turn my back on them. Please don't turn your back. Listen to the thousands of people who are saying, don't do it. There's a reason they're saying it. They need hope. We can't take that away. You take hope away from someone, you're damaging them. Don't do it. Thank you.
Jones. Regent Jones.
Thank you very much, Regent President Walsh. I mean, this is obviously an imperfect agreement for some of the really powerful reasons already expressed. That said, I do support this resolution. No one is losing their job. It gives us an opportunity to reimagine our approach to diversity. And it is an approach, it's not a walk away, it's an approach to diversity. And the other business items that are advanced by this settlement are important not only to regents, but to faculty, to staff, and to students. It keeps our business running and keeps giving people hope. So I do support this resolution and would urge others to support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Regent Jones. Regent Prince.
Thank you, Regent President Walsh. Good morning, Regent colleagues. I will try to be brief. I do agree with many of the statements that were just said. And when I finish, I think you'll understand which way I'm voting. Please forgive my voice. I hope it holds up. But I would just ask us to understand and seriously think what our role is as a regent. It is to make policy, but it is to listen to the voices that that policy would impact before we make that decision. I would suggest from someone who has 4 degrees from this system, from someone who worked inside of this system for 24 years. So I'm not a flyby. I'm not someone who reads something and then thinks they know exactly what is going on inside or out. We as regents sit from a very privileged position. No matter where we started as a child, today, as appointees to this board, each one of us sits in a very privileged position. And I would ask that we remember it is not our job to speak for others unless we have had discussions with them. Words are meaningless. Words around diversity are totally meaningless. Very few people would say, I don't want any type of diversity in this world. It is actions that are evident. No one got where they are without help. I would also suggest that there are erroneous perceptions coming out of this resolution and in discussions. For someone who worked inside of this system, the impression is being given that there are only people of ethnic descent, ethnic affiliation that are being served by diversity. Almost every campus has centers that work with veterans, work with those who are physically abled or differently abled, for those with all other types of associations. So why I would ask you, is this particular resolution focusing on DEI positions? Because it is what this part of the compromise has to be. I would urge that we're better than that. I would suggest that the faculty, staff, and students who were not allowed to weigh in should be heard. And I would also suggest that you remember that positions of privilege only last for a fortnight. Remember the vote that you choose to make today. You may smile if you vote positively. You may cry if you vote negatively. But at the end of the day, there is a 10-year-old Kyle Weatherly, a 10-year-old Chris Peterson, a 10-year-old Jay Rothman, a 10-year-old Jim Krauser, who is hoping and praying that one day they get to go to one of our universities where they will be treated decently, they will be treated with respect, they will feel as if they belong there because the stories that they've heard will help them assume and know that they belong. The stories that they hear now are that there are places to go to if they don't feel that they belong. But these places are inclusive, and the perceptions that are given is that they are not. So I would ask you to vote on what you do know not what you think you know, not what the advantage to you voting yes would be. I cannot, and we all have a moral compass. I cannot and will not vote to set this system back. I am one who is 100% about inclusivity. My whole life, I have excluded no one. I cannot say the same for this system. And if this resolution passes, I guarantee you, the achievement gaps, the presentations that we sit through in board meetings will not be authentic because they will be driven by what we need to do when the next deal comes up. This is not about buildings. I would suggest to my colleague that if there is a young Roberto Hernandez, they can learn just as well in an engineering building that is 20 years old versus one that is new. We have the faculty and staff. We need new buildings. We need new maintenance. Our people need raises. Trust me, I was one of them. I lived through 2.5 decades, most of the time not getting pay raises or getting minimal raises, wage freezes. So I just will say to you, the people who work inside these institutions are proud. They're very proud. They are not going to leave because a raise hasn't shown up in 60 days. They will get their raise, but what they will never, ever get back if you vote yes on this resolution is the pride in the institutions they work for, inside of, and the students who pass through our doors who deserve a whole lot better from people who sit in privileged positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Prince. Regent Rye.
Thank you, and thank you to all my regents that have spoken fellow regents that have spoken so eloquently. I've said this before since the first day I joined and I got a chance to introduce myself to the board, that being a regent is one of the greatest honors that I've ever had, professionally and personally. I arrived on the campus of UWM in 1990, and in January of 1991, Desert Storm began, and I was called names that I had never imagined being called before. I witnessed from afar 2 white men entering into a place of worship, aiming guns, and killing Wisconsinites that looked like me in the Sikh temple shooting. Diversity means a lot to me. Equity means a lot to me. I used to wear a t-shirt when I was a UWM student that said Panther Proud, people representing our university's diversity. I have held D&I issues close to my heart and have tried to promote them as much as I can as a physician, as a healthcare executive, and now as a regent. So I know that my vote in favor of this resolution may seem contradictory to my statements or to my life, but I do believe an opportunity to reimagine diversity and equity and inclusion is necessary because it has become so divisive, because we are not educating on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The fact that this is an issue that divides us is puzzling, confusing, and downright frustrating. We need to do better. This is an opportunity to do better. No jobs are being lost. It's an opportunity to create more conversation, which I do believe we need. And I know it's frustrating to see a person of color who just articulated his background to somebody who has 2 students on campus that call him dad on 2 UW campuses. Obviously, I care about what happens to students on campus. I send my kids to those campuses. And all that being said, I do feel that we have sought and found a great system president. We have sought and found a great chancellor for our flagship university. And as a board, we have trusted them to negotiate what's in the best interest of the system, of the campus, of the students, and of the mission which they have over and over and over to us committed they will not fail at. So for that reason, I stand in support of the motion, although with a heavy heart.
Thank you, Regent Rye. Regent Fox.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't really know how to add to this discussion, except I understand the predicament that Jay Rothman and Chancellor Mnuchin are in and have been in. It's a predicament that they didn't ask for, that they've done the best they can with. I respect them greatly. But I've spent, since 1985, I've been fighting for the little guy against massive corporations. And I find this whole situation concerning on several levels. Number one, what's going to happen next time we need a building? I think Ed talked about that in great detail. What's going to happen then? I don't like this precedent. And more importantly, what is it that we're saying to these kids? That we'll give up something we believe in, something that gives them a home they feel welcome in, so that we can get an engineering building? Well, we're going to get that anyway. Anybody that doesn't support the engineering building doesn't support the economy of the state. And they know that. It's going to come. I don't think I've ever spoken of my faith in a speech before, but I find the book of Matthew to be instructive on a lot of levels. Matthew 5, they talk about blessed are the poor in spirit, and bookended in this chapter of the Bible is Matthew 25, where he talks about what you've done to the least of these, you've done to me. And I worry about what these kids, the impact of this is going to be. We need to make this a welcoming environment. We need to send that message on every level. Education, I believe, and always have believed, is the great equalizer. It's the only hope we have. And so I will not support this motion. But I do respect what Jay and Chancellor Mnuchin have been through. I mean, you talk about, you know, I respect what they've done. They've done the best they can. I feel for them in this situation, but I will not support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Fox. Regent Weatherly.
Thank you, Regent President Walsh. It seems like everyone on this board have many concerns with the deal. The first is the message that it sends about our commitment to diversity. But I won't use my time to add to that because I agree with most of which has already been said. But the second is with the speed in which this has become public to when we are voting. We have not heard from all the constituencies that we serve. However, we have heard from some, in particular, the leaders of shared governance. To that end, I would like to use my time to read the short joint statement from the shared governance leaders that were at yesterday's meeting. These are their words. Any negotiated deal should include an acknowledgement from the Assembly Speaker that separating the pay raise from UW system employees from the rest of the state employees was a mistake and that it will never happen again. Harm has occurred and acknowledgement of that harm is necessary. Removing, reducing, and placing a freeze on the DEI positions on the Universities of Wisconsin campuses is an unattainable task. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is like the air we breathe every day. It is essential to a living and vibrant community of students, educators, staff. Taking it away would not be possible. Diversity is present in every corner of the universities we serve. Most importantly, DEI is present in positions that do not have it in their title, and it is inherent in the work that we do to serve students, conduct research, and positively impact our communities. Are we worried about this deal? Of course we are. And we will be worried about any negotiation that makes us fight for things that were approved budgeted, and promised to us during the budget negotiations. We trust and have confidence in the Board of Regents to not agree to any deal that would irreparably harm the universities of Wisconsin and further demoralize our employees and students. It is necessary that we have the resources to provide individualized support to the diverse needs of our many students, and that we need the freedom, security, and resources to help them succeed in their educational goals. We recognize that this support ultimately strengthens the workforce of Wisconsin. In the final paragraph, we are hopeful that the universities of Wisconsin system administration will ensure that our campuses do not have to compete with each other for positions necessary for program growth, and will ensure that any freeze in hiring does not result in increased workload in our employees. The crude reality is that any minute we delay in the release of compensation package is a minute that we lose more faculty and staff than we have already due to devaluation, low salaries, and lack of support from the state of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Weatherly. Regent Staton.
Hello, thank you. I want to say thank you to my fellow regents and their statements, as well as the hard work that not only Jay and Chancellor Mnookin has done, but the support staff as well, because they've had to help along the way. Not to add to the DEI part, I think I want to speak as a leader for the universities of Wisconsin. We are leaders, and these decisions are imposed on the campuses. My uncomfortability comes from the outpouring of staff, students, faculty, the hundreds of emails we have gotten, the phone calls. It makes me uncomfortable as a leader to impose a resolution on individuals who don't understand it. It's not that I am opposed to this resolution, but I would feel more comfortable pushing it forward if everyone understood what was happening. If we aren't cutting DEI positions, if we are evolving to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, then that needs to be explained. And people need to feel comfortable of it, especially to the people who need hope. I don't want to add my story. I just don't feel comfortable at the moment, but hope. I wouldn't be at Parkside if it wasn't for the military. The Army saved my life. And I will not. Parkside has been a home to me. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that they not only speak about, but they live it. And I don't want anyone feeling uncomfortable, because it is my home and I will fight for my home. And I will feel more comfortable if people understand what is actually happening. I don't want to impose a resolution when people are, I'm still getting emails. I know we're all getting emails at this moment. But as a leader, I want to make sure that people truly understand what's going on. And quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable compromising the position that Speaker Voss has put us in. I understand compromise. I truly do, because not everyone will agree on everything. And it is hard because of that. And I want to just, I think this expedition of this resolution, and once again, President Rothman and anyone else who was involved in these, I do appreciate it, because I understand what you're trying to do. And that fight is not easy. And I appreciate it. But if the people who do not have the privilege of this position and understand what is actually happening, don't feel comfortable with it, then as a leader, I want them to feel as if they are heard by me. And I feel that's all I have to say right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Regent Staton. Regent Tyler.
Thank you, Regent President Walsh. I'd like to start out by saying much of what has been said, I absolutely agree with. And I'd like to highlight a few of the things that were said. Regent Cologne's comments about, really what I got from that is we're making an effort, but we're not making the progress that we need to make. And I agree with that. When we look at the data on, the students that we're recruiting, the students that we're retaining, we're not doing the job, in my mind, that we need to be doing to live our mission. Regent Prince said that action, not words, was one of her phrases, and no one can get there without help. And I absolutely agree with that. The technical colleges have been working on this issue, like the university, for a long time, but I think we've taken maybe a little bit different approach. And I think some of what Regent Prince has said, action, not words, and no one can be successful without help, really resonates with me in the approach that the WTCS has taken. Over the years, we've added micro grant programs, we've added intensive advising and mechanisms to kind of catch those students that are struggling and work to intervene and provide those supports. And that has been successful. The diversity in our student population is greater than the diversity in Wisconsin's population. So I think that we have work to do, but we are becoming a welcoming place. And I hope that the university can be in that same place and move in that same direction in the future. So I think that sometimes you have to take a step back, reevaluate, and reimagine what needs to be done in order to be successful. And I think that's where we're at with diversity, equity, and inclusion at the university. We need to do better. It can't go away. It's got to be something that we live, something that we do as a daily part of a daily part of our work, not in a department, but throughout the culture of the university. So I'll be supporting this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Tyler. Other questions or comments from Regents? Seeing none, I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break before we. Hello, who is it? Jennifer.
I'm sorry, this is Regent Miller.
Okay, Regent Miller, go ahead, please.
I'll just limit my comments to the DEI portion of this proposal and its impact on current and former students. I'm going to base my vote on Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin's promise to this board that UW-Madison's commitment to fostering and growing its diverse student body is unwavering and will not be diminished one iota by this agreement. I want to be very crystal clear. Unlike some things reported in the media, this proposal does not eliminate a single employee who is focused on DEI work. Further, as was mentioned earlier, the board committed via our strategic plan to further advance DEI in real quantifiable ways, and I will hold us to that promise. I acknowledge that to appease the legislature and some employees, that some employees may see a title change, but commitments made to this board maintain that they're focused on making sure students from every walk of life will continue to feel that they belong at our universities and will remain those employees' #1 focus. My role as a regent will be to make sure that we will not sacrifice one bit our commitment to the absolutely imperative work of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in every facet of the universities of Wisconsin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Regent Miller. I apologize for not seeing your hand raised. Anyone else? We're just going to take about a 3-minute break. I know we've got one hard stop at 10:15, but if we can take a 3-minute break, we'll be back in that period of time. Thank you. Okay, everybody, can the folks on screen hear me? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's been a very emotional week for those of us who have been close to this. I have a deep personal commitment to diversity, and the stories that were shared with us here are painful to hear. I'm not I know many of you experienced your college years and educational years far differently than perhaps I did. I was a rural kid from a farm, and coming to Madison was a big deal for me. So I have a small sense of what that feels like, but it's nothing compared to those of you who have lived it. I greatly regret that we are being put in this position to make a choice, which in many ways, there is no choice. That's good. This is an agreement that President Rothman and Chancellor Mnuchin and many others worked on tirelessly over the last couple of months. No one comes to this vote without feeling that agony and the work that went into this. I'm really at a loss to provide guidance to you all. We will vote with our hearts based on this. There will be consequences either way. I respect anyone's vote in any direction that they feel compelled to do. And with that, is there any more discussion? All right, well, I'll call the question on a roll call vote, please.
Motion on the floor is whether to adopt the resolution. Regent President Walsh,
No.
Regent Vice President Bogus,
No.
Regent Adams,
No.
Regent Atwell,
Yes.
Regent Brankus,
No.
Regent Cologne,
Yes.
Regent Jones,
Yes.
Regent Cruiser,
Aye.
Regent Menedes,
No.
Regent Miller,
No.
Regent Peterson,
Yes.
Regent Prince,
No.
Regent Rye,
Yes.
Regent Staton,
No.
Regent Tyler,
I'm sorry, yes.
Regent Underley, Regent Walks,
No.
Regent Weatherly,
Yes.
Eight yes, 9 no, the motion fails.
Thank you. We are adjourned.